Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. Happy New Year. I am so excited to kick off the new year with you and with my guest today. 3 things you will learn from this episode. Some best practices in getting booked as a speaker. Number 2, how to stop letting your mindset limitations limit your potential. And number 3, some things you should look for when hiring a coach. Ryan Lavarnway is a former Major League Baseball catcher, World Series champion, Olympian, and Ironman, and is now a sought-after leadership coach and keynote speaker. Over his 15-year baseball career, Ryan played for 8 different major league teams, most notably the 2013 World Series champion Boston Red Sox. Ryan's journey to the majors began as a standout at Yale University. In 2007, he became the NCAA batting champion with an impressive .467 average and set a new Ivy League career home run record with 34 homers. His international career was equally distinguished, earning him MVP honors in the World Baseball Classic and becoming the first ever captain of Team Israel ahead of the 2023 championships. He also represented Israel in the Olympics. Now he's a leadership coach and keynote speaker, and in this year alone, he has delivered over 40 paid speeches. That would be 2024, including appearances at multiple international conferences and Fortune 500 companies. Ryan, I could go on and on. Just welcome to the show. So happy you're here.
Linz, what an intro. How I got to live up to that now. Thanks, sister.
Well, you lived it, so it'll be easy. But I'm so happy you're here to kick off this new year of the show. And I start every show the same, and this is how we met. So please, would you do us the honor? Could you share a little more of your story?
Oh man. Well, so you just highlighted a lot of the wonderful highs.
Yes,
And I think that you don't get the full picture unless I also kind of bring
please.
some lows, right? I think my story is very much one of resilience because as much as I played in the big leagues, broke records, played in the Olympics, I had to work my butt off to get there every single time. And I'm not the fastest runner. I was never the biggest or the strongest. I never had the best throwing arm. So for me, it was about fighting for every inch, earning it every single time, again and again. And my message is really that no matter what your goals are, because realistically, I'm assuming most of your listeners are not going to play Major League Baseball.
Probably not.
But whatever their goals are, they can achieve them. What happens in between your ears and in your head is so much more important than either your physical capabilities or where you went to school or what degrees or diplomas or certifications you have. You can set yourself up for success just by what's happening between your ears, the decisions you make, and how you handle adversity.
Now, I know this about your story. You declared at a young age you were going to be a Major League Baseball player, correct?
Yeah, when I was 5, I just the decision was made.
Yes, and it did not go according to plan. Also correct?
Well, I think at 5, you don't know what the plan is, right? You just
Right.
know where you want to go. But there were certainly points, plenty of points along the way where it didn't look like that was going to happen.
I think some of the feedback that you were given was maybe you were too slow and you didn't have the right chops. So can you talk a little bit about like those messages you got and how you turned that into where you ultimately ended up? Because most kids, and I'm a mom of twins, you can tell when your kid has potential and you can tell when your kid should keep on walking. So, what was that like for you?
Well, so yeah, I was 5. I decided I wanted to play in the big leagues, and my parents, God bless them, my parents are never the ones that said keep on walking.
Mm.
My parents said, okay, well then you need to do the things that you need to do to make that a reality. And they were all about the process, right? Work hard, do your best, get good grades in school,
Yes.
be the hardest worker on every team you're ever on. So my parents very much rewarded the process and the effort. And we've all seen everyone quoting Carol Dweck about how you reward the process and the effort, and that was my childhood. I don't know. I'm sure my parents hadn't seen that research, but they just did it right naturally. So I remember even about school, my dad would say, "I don't care if you get straight A's as long as you do your best."
Yeah.
And so I was always striving for my best, whatever that was. And as a kid, if you're motivated, you know whether you're giving it everything
Yeah.
you've got. So when I got to high school, we moved into the district with the best team in California, right?
Mm.
We moved our home. We went to El Camino Real High School. Our coach had won LA Times Coach of the Year 2 out of the 4 years, and I just wasn't good enough to play on the varsity team.
Mm.
You know, you've seen these kids. I was young for my grade, so 14 competing against 19-year-olds. Like that's a big 5 years.
Difference. It's a
It's a
huge
big 5 years.
difference.
I
Yeah.
was I was young for my grade. I was a late bloomer. So my sophomore year in high school, the yearbook lists me at 5'4", 135
Wait,
pounds.
tell the audience how tall you are in real life because you're
Now my baseball
four.
card says I'm 6'4".
Yes.
That's it's probably a slight exaggeration, but I
Mm.
had spikes on. So at 5'4" as a sophomore, there's just no chance, right? I'm too slow. My arm's not good enough. My defense is awful. And we've heard the story of Michael Jordan not making his varsity team
Yeah.
as a freshman. Well, on my freshman year, I played on the freshman team. And my sophomore year, I played on the sophomore team. And my junior year, guess what?
TV.
Junior varsity team. Yeah, exactly. So going into my senior year, I've never played on the varsity. And part of my identity is like, yes, I'm going to play in the big leagues, whatever it takes. But a lot of my reality at the time is I'm not
Wasn't
good at it.
pointed that way. Mm-mm.
Right, I'm too slow. My defense stinks. My arm's no good. And this coach that I want his approval so desperately doesn't even know I exist.
Mm.
So at a certain point, I was practicing with the varsity. I'm a senior. I either make the varsity or I keep on walking. And he kind of asked the team who's going to bat fourth for us this year. And if you know anything about baseball, the
It's an
fourth hitter
important
is the best
spot.
hitter,
That's right.
right? That's the best hitter. And like zero signs are pointing to that this should be me. But I'm so desperate for this man's
You're
attention.
like,
And
me.
17, yeah, I'm like, well, it feels a little crazy, right? Because this is not a positive leader. He's not gonna like, yeah,
Uh,
sure. He's gonna like Darth Vader air choke me out from across the room if you say the wrong thing. Uh, so I kind of like raise my hand, and he just looks at me and he thinks for a second, he crosses his arm, and he goes, "Well, why not you?"
um,
And you have kids. I have
yeah.
a 2.5-year-old. The why not question is a question that is so easy to ask. It's
Yeah.
almost throwaway. It's like, why not? But in that moment, even though he wasn't pandering to me, even though he wasn't telling me what I wanted to hear, it unlocked something in my brain because he had seen like I'm not the same 14-year-old. I'm not the same 5'4" kid that I was 3 years ago. He had seen my growth, even if I didn't see him see me.
Yeah.
Even if I hadn't noticed the gains, the progression that I had made, I was still tied to these inadequacies. And he's seeing the current reality.
Yeah.
He's seeing potential that I haven't realized yet.
Yeah, well, and you
So
can't see it when you're in it. And
yeah.
that's true for anything. So any job you're in, any, career you've chosen, when you're in it, it just feels like another day. But from the outsider's perspective, that's really important. And that question of why not you, that had to put some serious wind in your sails.
Well, what it did is it burrowed into my brain. And every time I was in the weight room or the batting cage or the game started and we're playing our rival high school, well, why not me?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I be the change maker?
Hmm.
Why can't I be the game winner? And the first thing I think anybody needs to do when they really start taking their dreams and their goals seriously is give themselves permission to be the person that does those things.
Yeah. Ugh, dreaming is such a big deal. And I think, I'd love to dig in a little on mindset because you don't go from a, freshman, sophomore, JV, senior, and then into the majors without some serious mindset work. So can you talk a little bit about that journey and what got you to the majors? Because that's some serious belief in yourself. And I'd love to know, I mean, when you went to Yale, did you go on a baseball scholarship? Were you going to play at Yale? Or how did that transpire?
Well, so yeah, going into my senior year, never played on the varsity team. No one knows who I am. I actually got recruited to Yale to play at Yale before my senior year because it's like a junior summer recruitment
Mm.
process for baseball since it's a spring sport. So they signed me mostly because I went to one showcase and played well.
Hmm.
One show and I had good grades, right? And I was the sixth recruit out of six recruits that year. And at the time, Yale was ranked 270 in
Yeah.
D, right? And there's 271 teams only. So like the Yale baseball team is more known for producing US presidents than baseball players.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Not the traditional route you would go if the big leagues is your dream, but it was my only opportunity. So I pursued the only
Not a bad
opportunity.
one either, though. I
Well,
mean,
my mom was pumped and my diploma was going to look good.
sure.
But for baseball wise, I can't tell you how many times I've had to answer the question, why the hell did
Yeah.
you go?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's not the route. But sometimes when you have a goal and you're chasing it, a door opens.
Mhm.
And it's not the door you would have expected. And it's not the door that's a straight line path, but you got to take the only door that's open. I did that again after my freshman year. I played very average. I'm going into my sophomore year, and now I'm starting to set bigger goals, right? I've seen that when you have the mindset that it can be you, you can do anything you set your mind to. And now I believe in my potential. Now I'm like, well, how good can I be? So I start setting these goals. I start setting, well, like, now I'm going to win all Ivy League. I'm pumped about winning all Ivy League. I start like, it was the early 2000s, right? I'm doing like the crip walk. It's like I already won it. And it's just because I set it my goal. I'm like, yeah, I'm pounding my chest, all Ivy League. Yeah, great. And my coach was like, you need to set a bigger goal. Like it went from why not you to now it's why not more,
Yeah.
right? Why not all American? So then now I have this bigger goal, something I hadn't even considered. And I'm like, oh, well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to be this person? So I buy a weight vest and I wear it every second I'm awake. Think about that. Every second you're awake, weight vest. And like, what does a weight vest have to do with baseball? I don't know. I still don't
Stamina?
know. Probably nothing,
Stamina? Yeah.
right? Maybe. But I'll tell you what, you wear a weight vest every second you're awake for 2 months, you feel like a superhero.
Yeah.
And like the confidence that comes with like, I did the work. I tried harder. I sweat. I bled. I wore a stupid weight vest at the bar at night with the co-eds, right? Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I did it. Now I deserve it. Like I've embodied the person that did all that work.
Mm.
And that very next year I was an All-American. And like that's what got me on the map because they don't draft Ivy League baseball players. They just
Yeah.
don't. But when you win the NCAA batting title, they do.
Hmm.
So I had to be so much more than my peers. I had to excel so far beyond what anyone had done where I was. And that starts with like, first of all, you need the opportunity. So you got to go through the open door. And then it's set that high bar for yourself and allow yourself to be the one that achieves it.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that. All right. So you make it to the majors. You find yourself 8 different teams. Was that?
Not at first, but yeah.
Yeah. So bounced around a little bit, land yourself on the Red Sox, and you win the World Series. So that had to feel pretty great.
That was cool. Yeah, that was early. Red Sox was early in my career. I didn't even know how great I was at the time.
It's amazing. Okay, so you're in the majors for 15 years and then Olympics somewhere in between all that or after or
Yeah, so I played professional baseball for 15, maybe 16 years, depending how you count that first summer.
Mhm.
Um, Really the story is like up and down. I was the 25th man on 25-man rosters or the
Mhm.
26th man on 25-man rosters and up and down and up and down. I actually got taken off of a major league roster more than anyone else in the history of baseball.
Ugh.
Think about that. Which also means I got added to a major league roster more than anyone in the history of baseball.
Mhm.
And I say it that way on purpose because you can view failure or you can view the overcoming of failure. And you asked about mindset a minute ago. I really believe that my success came because every failure I saw as the starting point of the next journey,
Love it.
not as the end of this previous one.
Mm, brilliant. Okay,
So
so
yeah, when I got sent down, it was like, okay, that now this is the start of me getting called back up again. And
mm,
I got sent down. It's like, okay, this is the start of how am I going to overcome this again? And the very last time I got sent down, that's not the end of the story either. This is the start of my next transition.
mhm. Okay, so you get the opportunity to compete with Israel and you go to the Olympics with them. And how'd that go? What was that experience like?
The Olympics is insane. Oh my God. I mean, the most fit people, minus maybe baseball, right? Like as a professional athlete, like I'm an Olympian, I'm an Ironman, whatever, but like baseball players are allowed to be a little soft around the edges. That's just like we're not track stars, like
No,
freaking chiseled out of granite like they are.
not swimmers.
But our swimmers, yeah, oh my God. Can you imagine a pole vaulter that didn't have a six pack? Like
No.
impossible. So the Olympics were so cool. It was to me, the Olympics is not the pinnacle of sport for baseball.
Mm-mm.
It is the pinnacle of sport for most of the sports there. But
Yeah.
for baseball, it's like baseball wasn't even in the Olympics for 13 years before I went, and then it wasn't in the next one. So it was the only time baseball was in the Olympics most of my life. So it was something I never considered as an option. It's something I certainly didn't envision myself playing for another country as I was growing up in Southern California. But it's such an incredible experience, and my favorite part was Olympic Village gym
Yeah.
because I'm such a believer that the competition, like the part that the rest of the world sees, is the celebration, right?
Sure.
That's you getting to do the thing that you have trained 1,000 times harder for. But the training is where the actual work happens.
Mhm.
So getting to see the best in the world do the things behind the scenes that made them the best in the world
Mhm.
was my favorite part of the Olympics.
Yeah, we've had a lot of Olympians on the show, and it's um it's really fun to hear the Olympic Village stories. And my nephew was just in Paris with swimming, and it was, I mean, a really incredible experience to be around that caliber of talent, and the mental game that you have to keep in check while you're there is very real. Okay, so let's transition a little bit because now you're speaking and you're coaching. So you had all this success and you moved into speaking. What made you want to move into speaking and coaching?
Wow, I honestly the scariest question for all 15 years of my baseball career was what are you going to do when you can't play baseball anymore? Because I had
Right.
no idea.
Yeah.
There was
That
a
happens to a lot of athletes.
yeah, well, I was a big Will Smith the rapper fan growing up, right? And he
Sure.
had his album Big Willie Style came out when I was like in middle school, and there was one of his lyrics that lives in my head is no plan B, it distracts from plan A.
Mm,
And I was a big like plan A is happening. I'm gonna make plan A happen. So I never had a backup plan. Yale was a good fallback plan, right?
sure.
But I didn't know what I would actually do with it. I majored in philosophy for goodness sake. I certainly wasn't going to be a philosophy professor. So when I finished, one of the things that had happened naturally was they made a couple documentaries about Team Israel, and I had followed the film to film festivals and done Q and A's.
Mm,
And after the Q and A, people every time came up to me. They're like, "Ryan, you don't need the film. Like you can speak. You're
right.
passionate. There's
Yeah.
energy there. You have a compelling story. You just need to do this without the film." So it kind of happened naturally, and it's like another door opened up that I didn't even see until I was ready to see it. So
Mhm.
I walked through that door, and then I decided, well, if I want to talk about things other than playing for Team Israel, what would it be?
Mm,
And just like for baseball, I hired a coach. I started training. You know, how do I put together a speech that's compelling? How do I tell a story in a way that has a flow and there's data and there's takeaways for the
yeah.
audience? There's stuff they can use in their life because nobody just wants to hear a memoir. Right?
No.
They want to. I'm there for them, not for me.
Yeah.
And
We have
and once
a saying that one of my friends says. She's a pretty famous speaker, and she says, "You can't be nervous when you're in service." And whenever you are giving of yourself and teaching people whatever it is you know, you can't be nervous. You can be excited, and you can be, like, I hope I do a good job. But that because you know your stuff, people get that and they love it.
yeah. Long story short, it happened naturally, and I get a huge kick out of it. It's fun. It almost feels like I'm performing on the field again because
Mm,
just like if you swing and miss at a fastball, like you go on stage, you trip or you say something that you didn't mean to, or you don't hit the joke hard or you don't hit the point hard, like you don't get to do it again. So you
no,
got to perform in the moment
that's
that
right.
matters.
That's right. So talk a little bit about the difference in coaching from athletic world to speech coaching, because you've obviously seen a couple of different kinds of coaches, and now you're a coach. So, can you take away some of the morsels from those three examples?
In all cases, you have to really make an effort to connect with people because people are different, right? Like if I was coaching you, Linz, or if I was coaching Jamie or Kevin or whoever else, like you need different things.
Hmm.
And the first thing is you need to believe that I see your potential
Yeah.
because you're going to live up or down to what you see as potential, what I see as potential. And I had multiple coaches change my life with a single conversation for the better because they saw that potential in me. So I always strive to be aspirational. I always strive to be like, if everything goes right, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
So how can we get there? And then it's about, saying it in the language that they understand. Because nine people could say something in the way that they understand it, but it doesn't matter unless the person that needs to receive it hears it.
Mm. Love that. So, the coach that you hired for your speaking, obviously they helped you with your pitch. What are some of the tips that you received for booking gigs? Because we have a lot of speakers that listen to the show and a lot of people that want to get into speaking and they're not really sure where to start. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. I know what I do, but I think a lot of people get some bad advice and they're told, oh, go with this bureau. They're going to do all these things for you. Tell me what some of the best advice you got.
Man, I learned from trial and error. I started speaking basically a year and 2 weeks ago, and I didn't have even a headshot or any video of me speaking or a speech summary, a speech title, for goodness sake. Um, the biggest thing I could say is make it easy for someone to hire you and
Mhm.
make it easy for someone to refer you.
Mm,
Because at this point, most of my business is referral based.
love that.
Either another speaker that I have a relationship with
Yep.
has a gig that they did last year where they're not going to hire the same speaker 2 years in a row.
Right.
They call them and they're like, "You were great. How are we going to top you
Who would you
next?"
recommend? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know anyone that's as good as you?
That's such a good tip because I think people they think if I hang around with other people that do the same thing that I do, that's a threat. And actually, it's the opposite. When you can learn from people that do what you do really well, you're in a much better position to thrive. And I know that from podcasting. I know that from speaking. I certainly know it from any other thing I've ever tried. So when you can surround yourself with like-minded people who are better than you, you'll always get better. You'll raise the bar. That's really good. So, what inspires you?
What inspires me, man? I love seeing people do their thing, right? Like that was what was so cool about the Olympics was like I don't care about weightlifting when I'm just in regular life, but if you're the best in the world at it,
I want to
I also
watch. Yeah.
I want to watch you practice.
Mm,
That's what drives me. Like I want to watch LeBron James practice. I want to watch Michael Phelps practice. That's what gets me going, not the end result. Like I don't the competition's fun, but that's the reward. That's the cherry on top. I want the
mm.
cake.
Yeah, I love that. And what would you like your legacy to be?
Man, I think about I think it was Maya Angelou, maybe Mother Teresa, whatever. Whoever said people will forget what you said and did, but they'll never how
I,
you feel. Like I want to make people feel confident. I want to make people feel loved, and I want to make people feel like they can be the best versions of themselves.
I love that. That's you're in the right spot for this show because that is what we strive for here for sure. And what's next for you?
Man, well, I have a little girl. She's 2.5, so I want to be the best dad I can be. Sometimes, speaking takes me away from home, coaching takes me away from home often. So I need to be on the road so that I feel like being a parent, I need to be fulfilled and be the best version of myself so I can be the best for her. So I still need to pursue my own passions and my own career. With that, I try to be as home as much as possible and as present as possible. So number one, be a good dad, be a good husband, and just keep making a positive impact on people.
I love
The
that.
thing that gets me going about speaking is when I get the feed. First of all, in the moment, when I see the heads nod or I see them taking notes, I know I've just given them something valuable, something
Something
that they think
connected.
they can
Yeah.
use. And then afterwards, when the CEO or the president that brought me in says, like, you set the tone to such a point where the rest of the conference, I was calling back to some of the things you said to help illustrate my point.
I love that.
because
You know
I'm
you
an
did a good job
outsider.
when you get that. That's really great. I
As
love
a
it.
as an ex-athlete, I am intentionally and very specifically an outsider to most of these industries that I'm speaking to.
Yeah, but I will say there is
And that's
such
what they need.
there's great correlation between sports and business. And that's why I have so many athletes on my show. I love to pull out those coaching nuggets, that belief. And, when I ask you about these questions about what did that coach say to you, it's the same as being a leader. So when you can show someone that you believe in them and you can say, you've done this before, you're totally capable of this. Yeah, you could fail, but you could also crush it. So that kind of leadership is hugely inspirational. And the reason that athletes do so well on this show and in business is because of just that. Y'all were malleable. You were accepting and willing to be coached. Whereas I think a lot of business people look at, if I hire a coach, it means I'm not good at something. No, dummy, you don't know everything. There's always people that are going to make you better. And if you choose to surround yourself with those people, that's what works. So I love that.
And what I was going to say is, at a certain point, employees are sick of hearing mom and dad, right? The president and the HR, whoever, say the same thing. When an outsider can come in and say it in a new language and they can see themselves in the story, that holds such a stronger and different power.
Agreed. And that's why I do the show, because some message, whether it's from Ryan or it's from Siri Lindley or it's from Timothy Wright or whatever other athlete or CEO or producer or whoever, tells you a story that connects with you. I want you to walk away from the show going, "Ah, I know what I need to do differently, or I know how to step up, or I know what I need to do next." And that's the whole reason I want you to be inspired. So thank you for giving us all of that. So, my friend, how can people find you?
Oh, goodness, I'm so easy to find. Ryan Lavarnway, Instagram, R. Lavarnway, LinkedIn, my website's ryanlavarnway.com. Not a lot of people have my name. So,
Perfect. And we will share all of that in the notes. Ryan, I loved having you on the show. Thank you so much. And guys, if you liked what you heard, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell your friends. Go out to Spotify or Apple. Leave a 5-star review. Those reviews mean so, so much to us creators out there. So thank you for listening. Go lead with heart and have a great day. Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game-changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top-down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success, helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top-down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.